I never thought I would be the kind of woman who plotted revenge. But then again, I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who would be cheated on in broad daylight, lied to with a straight face, and humiliated in front of half the people I knew. My name is Elina. And this is where my story begins. The story of how I went from being the heartbroken girl who cried herself to sleep at night, to the girl who orchestrated a performance so cold, so calculated, that my ex would never forget it for the rest of his life. It was a Friday evening when I saw him again for the first time after everything fell apart. Daniel. Tall, smug, with that infuriating smile he wore like armor. The kind of smile that had once made me believe he was incapable of hurting me. The kind of smile I now knew was nothing more than a mask. A lie he used to cover up every little betrayal, every little selfish thing he did. He was at the cafe where we used to meet after work. The one with the fairy lights strung above the patio and the cinnamon lattes I used to order just so I could watch him steal sips when he thought I wasn't looking. Except now, he wasn't stealing sips from me. He was with her. Meh. The girl he swore was just a friend. The one who always lingered too long, laughed too loud at his bad jokes, and conveniently texted him late at night when I wasn't around. I had suspected it. I had even asked him about it once, my voice trembling with the kind of vulnerability you only give to someone you trust. He'd laughed, kissed me on the forehead and said, "Baby, don't be insecure. You know you're the only one." And like a fool, I had believed him. Seeing them together now, her hand brushing against his on the table, his head bent toward hers with that conspiratorial smile, was all the confirmation I ever needed. I should have walked away. I should have turned around and left the cafe and never looked back. But instead, something inside me shifted. It wasn't just pain anymore. It wasn't just anger. It was something sharper, colder. A seed of an idea took root. If Daniel thought he could humiliate me, then maybe it was time I showed him what real humiliation felt like. That night, lying in bed with a ceiling fan spinning slowly above me, I replayed every moment of our relationship. Every lie. Every excuse. Every time he had made me feel like I was the crazy one. I remembered the way he had dismissed me in front of his friends when I asked why he never posted pictures of us together. I remembered the text messages I found one night when his phone lit up on the nightstand. Flirty, teasing words he swore didn't mean anything. I remembered the way he had once told me with a smirk, "You're too emotional, Elina. You need to lighten up." I remembered most of all how small I had felt with him. That was the part that burned the deepest. Not just that he cheated, but that he made me doubt myself, made me question my worth, made me think that maybe I wasn't enough. But I was enough. More than enough. And I was going to make him see it. The plan didn't come to me all at once. It started as a whisper in the back of my mind, a wicked little thought that made me smile bitterly in the dark. What if I pretended to forgive him? What if I let him think he still had me wrapped around his finger? What if I gave him exactly what he wanted, until the moment I ripped it all away in front of everyone? The more I thought about it, the more intoxicating the idea became. Daniel loved attention. He loved to be the center of the room, the man with the charm, the one people envied. His ego was bigger than any flaw he could hide. So, what better way to destroy him than to build him up first? What better way to make him fall than to let him climb as high as he could on the illusion of control, only to pull the ground out from beneath him? The idea was cruel. But the more I thought about it, the more it felt right. This wasn't just revenge. This was justice. Of course, to pull it off, I needed to see him again. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. A week later, I got a text from him out of nowhere. "Daniel, hey, can we talk?" I stared at the screen, my heart pounding with a mix of dread and anticipation. A month ago, that text would have sent me spiraling. I would have analyzed every word, every punctuation mark. I would have hoped it meant he regretted everything, that he wanted me back. Now I just saw it for what it was, bait. But this time I wasn't going to be the one caught. I typed back slowly, letting him wait a little longer than necessary. "Me sure. When?" He replied within seconds. "Daniel. Tonight. Dinner. My treat." Smirk. Course. My treat. That was Daniel. Always trying to smooth things over with grand gestures, with the illusion of generosity. Agreed. We met at one of those sleek rooftop restaurants with glass railings and a view of the city skyline. The kind of place he knew I loved. When he saw me, he grinned like nothing had ever happened. Like the weeks of silence, the betrayal, the heartbreak. They had all been a dream we could just shrug off. "Elina," he said warmly, reaching for me. I let him hug me, stiffly at first, then more naturally. My body remembered the shape of him, even if my heart wanted to recoil. "You look amazing," he said, pulling back to look at me. His eyes scanned my dress, my hair, the lipstick I had chosen carefully. Red, bold, powerful. I smiled faintly. "Thanks." We sat and he started talking. About work. About friends. About nothing important. It was like he thought if he just talked enough, the past would dissolve. I listened. I laughed at the right moments. I played the part of the forgiving ex. But inside I was studying him. Every word. Every gesture. I was reminding myself exactly why I couldn't let him get away with what he did. Finally, over dessert, he grew quiet. "Elina," he said, lowering his voice. "I messed up. I know I did. And I can't stop thinking about you. Miss us. I miss you." I looked at him, my face carefully blank, while inside me, satisfaction bloomed. There it was. The opening. That night when I got home, I stared at myself in the mirror. "You're not falling for him again," I whispered to my reflection. "This isn't love. This is war." And for the first time in a long time I smiled. Because Daniel had no idea. No idea that the woman sitting across from him tonight wasn't the same girl who had once cried into his pillow when he didn't come home. This version of me was sharper, stronger. And she was about to orchestrate the greatest performance of her life. That was how it began. With a smile at the mirror, a promise to myself, and the knowledge that if Daniel wanted to play games, well, he had just chosen the wrong opponent. Because I wasn't just going to break his heart. I was going to break his pride. And when I was done, the entire world would see him for the liar he really was. I always thought heartbreak had a sound. A single piercing sound like glass shattering. But standing in front of the mirror that night, smoothing my dress, fixing my lipstick, I realized heartbreak was silent. It wasn't the kind of pain that screamed. It was the kind that simmered. And tonight, I wasn't the one who would feel it. Tonight, Daniel was going to learn what silence feels like. The silence of a room full of people watching as the mask slips off your face. The silence that follows when the whole world sees you for what you really are. The event was his idea, or at least that's what I let him think. He had been planning it for weeks, bragging to his friends, making little comments to his family, even hinting to me in that cocky way of his. "I've got something special lined up. You're going to love it." He wanted the spectacle. He wanted the cameras, the applause, the envy in the eyes of every other man in the room. I wanted those things too. Just not for the reasons he imagined. The night of the proposal, the venue sparkled with fairy lights. It was one of those rooftop spaces overlooking the city, with tall glass panels and glowing lanterns swaying in the breeze. Music floated through the air, soft and romantic. I had chosen my dress carefully. A deep crimson satin that clung in all the right places. Powerful. Daring. A color that couldn't be ignored. Daniel couldn't take his eyes off me. He kept whispering compliments into my ear. His hand possessive at the small of my back. He thought he owned me. He thought tonight was his victory lap. I smiled, let him kiss my cheek, let him lead me through the crowd. Inside I was calm, cold. Every beat of my heart was measured, every breath rehearsed. Because tonight there could be no mistakes. We mingled with guests, our friends, his colleagues, even some of his family. Everyone had dressed for the occasion, though none of them knew the full reason why. They only suspected. "Elina, you look gorgeous," one of his aunts gushed, giving me a knowing smile. "Something tells me tonight is going to be special." I laughed politely, my stomach twisting, not with nerves but with anticipation. If only she knew. Halfway through the evening, I saw Daniel give a subtle nod to one of his friends. The lights dimmed slightly. The music softened. A hush fell over the crowd as Daniel cleared his throat, drawing everyone's attention. Here it was. The moment I had been waiting for. He tugged me toward the center of the rooftop, his hand tight in mine. People circled around us, phones lifted, cameras flashing. My pulse quickened, but not from excitement. From the sheer power of knowing that every single I was about to witness his undoing. Daniel dropped to one knee. The crowd gasped, clapping, whispering. I heard someone squeal, "Oh my God, it's happening!" Daniel looked up at me, his face glowing with confidence. He pulled out a small velvet box, opened it to reveal a glittering diamond. "Elina," he said, his voice carrying through the rooftop. "You are the love of my life, my best friend, my everything. I can't imagine a future without you. Will you marry me?" Cheers erupted. Phones zoomed in. All eyes turned to me. Smiled. "Oui." The way a woman does when she's about to say yes. Daniel's grin widened. And then I let my voice ring out. "No." The word cut through the air like a blade. The crowd went silent. The music seemed to stop. Even the city noise below faded into nothing. Daniel blinked, confusion flickering in his eyes. He chuckled nervously. "Wait, what?" I pulled my hand free from his. My smile hardened. "No, Daniel," I repeated louder this time. "I will not marry you." Gasps rippled through the crowd. His friends exchanged wide-eyed looks. His aunt clutched her pearls. Phones captured every second. Daniel's face flushed red. "Elina, baby, maybe this isn't the time for jokes." "It's not a joke." My voice was sharp, clear, carrying to every corner of the rooftop. "But our whole relationship wasn't it? A joke to you." Murmurs swept through the audience. Daniel's smile faltered. "Elina, do you think I forgot, Daniel?" Cut him off. "Do you think I forgot how you lied to me? How you told me Maya was just a friend while you snuck around behind my back?" Collective gasp. People shifted uncomfortably. Maya herself, standing in the crowd, froze, her face pale. I turned slowly, making sure the cameras caught every angle of me. He thought he could cheat on me, lie to me, and then win me back with a few dinners and empty words. He thought he could use me as his prize. His little trophy to show off tonight. I looked down at him, still kneeling. His face a mask of panic and humiliation. "But the truth is, Daniel, you're not a man worth marrying. You're not even worth dating." The silence was heavy, and then someone clapped. One person, then another. Until suddenly, the rooftop was filled with applause. Not for him, but for me. I stepped back, lifting my chin, while Daniel scrambled to his feet. You planned this." His voice cracked, barely audible over the noise. "Yes," I said simply, meeting his eyes. "I planned every single part of this. Because you needed to be exposed for what you are." His face twisted. You're crazy." I smiled, calm and poised. "No, Daniel. I'm free." And with that, I turned, my heels clicking against the floor as I walked away from him, from the ring, from the entire charade. The crowd parted for me like water. Phones recorded. Whispers followed me. And Daniel. He was left standing alone in the middle of the rooftop, holding a ring that no one wanted, under 100 pairs of eyes that would never see him the same again. So I walked away from the stage. The stunned silence of the crowd followed me like a shadow. For once, he wasn't the center of attention, I was. And it wasn't pity in their eyes. It was admiration. He stammered, pale, humiliated, the diamond ring still glinting uselessly in his trembling hand. That was his punishment, to feel as small as he once made me. To finally choke on his own pride. Later I sat alone, the night air cool against my skin. My phone buzzed with messages, support, praise, people saying they wished they had my courage. I didn't reply. I didn't need validation anymore. I hadn't just destroyed him. I had freed myself. For the first time in years I felt light. The revenge wasn't about him. It was about me reclaiming the power he stole. And now, with the world watching, he knew he'd never get it back. I smiled to myself, slipped off the heels that hurt my feet, and walked barefoot into my future. Stronger, untouchable, finally free. When you've been hurt deeply, people expect you to heal quietly, to move on, to find someone new, delete the old memories, and grow stronger. But what they don't tell you is that healing isn't always pretty. Sometimes it isn't yoga or green tea or positive affirmations whispered to yourself in the mirror. Sometimes healing looks like fire. Like a storm you invite into your chest and feed with every grudge, every sleepless night, every unanswered question. And for me, healing looked exactly like Daniel's downfall. The weeks after our dinner felt almost surreal. Daniel slipped back into my life as if nothing had happened. He called. He texted. He sent me little good morning messages that used to make my heart flip, but now only made me smirk. He asked to see me every other night. Sometimes it was dinner, sometimes it was a walk, sometimes it was him showing up with takeout like the doting boyfriend he thought he was playing again. To everyone else, it must have looked like reconciliation. Like the couple who had broken apart was now magically stitched back together. To him it must have felt like winning. He thought he had me again. He thought his charm, his apologies, his carefully placed words had undone the damage. But to me, every moment with him was another chess piece moving into place. I knew better than to rush things. A man like Daniel thrived on control, on thinking he was smarter, stronger, more clever than everyone else. If I struck too soon, if I revealed even a hint of my plan, his walls would slam shut and the whole thing would collapse. Well, I had to play his game. I had to make him believe this was real. So I softened my voice when I spoke to him. I let him kiss me when he leaned in. I laughed at his jokes, even the ones that used to make me cringe. And slowly, I started to notice the change in him. His shoulders relaxed around me. His texts got cockier, filled with winks and teasing remarks. His stories about Maya dwindled, until he didn't mention her at all. He thought he'd won me back. And I let him. One night, we were at a small party a friend of his was throwing. I hadn't wanted to go, but I knew it was important. Daniel was always at his best in social situations, playing the charming, magnetic man everyone admired. And I needed people to see us together. When we arrived, his friends cheered, pulling him into hugs and claps on the back. A few of them glanced at me in surprise. "Elina," one of them said. "Wow, didn't expect to see you again." Daniel smirked and pulled me close. "Told you she couldn't resist me." I laughed lightly, leaning against him. On the outside it probably looked like love. On the inside, I was memorizing every smug detail of his expression. Because soon, that very same circle of friends would be watching his empire of lies crumble in front of them. As the weeks turned into months, I carefully laid the foundation of the final act. First, I started planting little seeds. Casual comments to our mutual friends. Half smiles when people asked how we were doing. Enough to make them curious. Enough to make them whisper that maybe Daniel and I were headed somewhere serious again. Second, I pretended to let him take control. When he suggested weekend getaways, I agreed. When he showed me expensive gifts online, I teased him about spoiling me. When he talked about the future, I let my eyes soften just enough for him to believe I was imagining it too. And then, the third step, social media. Daniel loved to show off. So I let him. I let him post pictures of us laughing, holding hands, kissing at sunset. Each one was a trophy to him, proof to the world that he had me back. To me, each post was another stage being set. Because the more public he made our love story, the more public his downfall would be. It wasn't until one particular evening that I knew I had him exactly where I wanted him. We were at his apartment, curled up on the couch, a movie playing in the background. His arm was around me, and he was scrolling lazily through his phone. Out of nowhere, he said, "You know, I've been thinking, maybe it's time we take things to the next level." My heart stuttered, though not for the reason he thought. This was it. The moment I had been waiting for. I tilted my head toward him, feigning innocence. "Next level." He smirked. "Yeah, You know, making it official again. Maybe even more than official. I widened my eyes, letting a blush creep across my cheeks. Are you saying what I think you're saying? He laughed, tapping my nose. Not yet. But soon. And just like that, the plan solidified in my mind. If Daniel wanted to propose, or at least pretend he was heading in that direction, then I would be the one to write the ending to that story. From that day forward, every move I made was with one goal in mind. The proposal. I began subtly steering conversations toward love, commitment, and marriage. I let myself dream aloud in front of him, just enough to stroke his ego. I always thought a beach proposal would be so romantic, I said one afternoon, sipping coffee. He grinned. Oh yeah, you planning something? I rolled my eyes playfully. Don't be silly. Girls don't propose. But, I mean, it's nice to imagine, right? I saw the spark in his eyes. The challenge. Daniel loved to be the one who gave people what they wanted, so long as it made him look good in the process. And I was giving him exactly the script to follow. Of course, I had to be careful. I couldn't make it too obvious. So I balanced it out with moments of hesitation. When he joked about buying a ring, I pretended to get nervous. When he brought up marriage, I bit my lip and said, I don't know if we're ready yet. This only fueled him more. Because to Daniel, everything was a game. And what game could be more enticing than convincing the woman he'd once betrayed to marry him? He didn't realize I was the one convincing him. As the weeks went by, I began crafting the stage for the final scene. I knew it had to be public. That was the whole point. A private proposal could be brushed off, hidden, denied. But a public one, surrounded by friends, family, cameras, would leave no escape. So I began to drop hints. To his friends. Mine. To his family even. Casual little lines like, Daniel's been so sweet lately. I think he might surprise me soon. Or, if something big happens, I want all of you there. The whispers began to spread. The anticipation built. And I could see Daniel soaking it all in, basking in the attention, already imagining the applause when he got down on one knee. He thought he was writing a love story. He had no idea he was stepping into a tragedy. One evening while we were out to dinner, he reached across the table, took my hand and said, I want to give you the proposal you deserve. I smiled, soft and sweet, while inside my chest a storm raged. Because I knew in that moment that everything was falling perfectly into place. And when the day came, when he finally stood before me with that smug smile and that sparkling ring, I would deliver my lines flawlessly. I would let him believe for one shining moment that he had me. And then I would shatter him in front of everyone. That night, as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I whispered to myself again. This isn't love. This is war. And the battlefield was almost ready.